Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I will be your guys' astrologer this week, and I'm back at it with yet another video this Sunday. This is going to be my Sunday service, the astro weather for August the 17th through the 24th, 2025. Major headlines: Sun in Virgo squares Uranus in Gemini. So we're going to see some curveballs this week. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you subscribe to the channel below. Click that bell button so you're alerted as to when I have new videos on the channel. Here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, trying to make sense of what is going on in the cosmos. And while you're here, please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, consider sharing, and definitely comment below. Let me know where this is hitting your chart. Are you born with Sun square Uranus? Are you a bit of a rebel at heart? And let me know some of the shocks and surprises that manifest for you guys over this next week. Now, just as a reminder, I'm going to be here on Friday. I'll be doing live readings on this new moon in Virgo, and I'll be covering this topic as well. So if you guys want to hang out and ask questions about your natal chart or maybe some synastry or timing questions, I'll be here at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. on the Pacific Coast, 7 p.m. Eastern. And it's always a good time when we're doing the live readings. So if you guys want to check that out, please do. And check out my memberships if you would like to get a reading with me once a month on my lives. All right, so let's dive into this week's kind of cosmic currents together. Obviously, I'm your guide this week to talk to you about what's going on with some of these unseen energies, because I think there's going to be some stuff that's going to be coming out of left field. Now, good news is the new moon in Virgo, it's, this Sun square Uranus is really kind of baked into it. So it'll be something we're going to be dealing with all month during this lunar cycle, really leading all the way up to the full moon in Virgo next year. And this week, we're actually going to see a transition from Leo season, where it's been very dramatic, very feisty and fiery, into what is going to be the more kind of earthly, grounded, practical Virgo season. So get ready to get your guys' cleaning done, getting down to details. And this powerful new moon in Virgo is kicking everything off. Now, if you guys haven't seen my Virgo new moon video, definitely check it out. It is the first of what will be two new moons in Virgo. The second one will be the solar eclipse next month. Really, I guess the universe's way of helping us clean house and really innovate our daily routines. Now, it's going to give us also the opportunity to heal old wounds. Obviously, we're going to be seeing some changes going on, I think, with relationships and setting intentions. Now that we have the, Mercury retrograde, it's over in Leo. We're still in shadow, but it's done. And we're coming into eclipse season. So we're going to unpack all this today. Just know that this week feels like a bit of a cosmic reset button. Equal parts chaotic maybe, but also clarifying. And Leo's kind of lingering fire is really giving way to this earthly energy. And you would think that would kind of calm things down, but I actually think the Sun square Uranus is going to make everything feel a little unpredictable this month. Now, it is also time for breakthroughs in health. When it comes to health, work, communication, just watch, because I think while we're in the post-shadow of the Mercury retrograde and the Sun square Uranus, there could be some tech glitches and some sudden shifts. So overall, the energy is very innovative this week. It does offer opportunity for healing, and it's urging us to release old things, old tendencies, old habits, and get ready for what's next and what's new. In particular, what I'm going to be looking at in terms of the key transits this week will be Mercury in the sign of Leo. We will have a several-day period where Mercury is actually going to be sextiling Mars, which is nice. You'll kind of see that from about 6 to about 8 or 9 degrees. Great for communication, great for creative projects, great for dating, great for anything that deals with collaboration, working in partnerships, hanging out with romantic partners, meeting people, and it's really great for, I think, having a little bit more confidence when it comes to how we express ourselves. We are also going to be seeing this week a triple conjunction in Cancer. Now, I actually really like this, especially if you guys think about last week when we had Venus and Jupiter in conjunction in the sign of Cancer. It happened right around the same time that Mars in Libra was opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So you guys have to give me your feedback. I did not feel the extra sweetness of the conjunction, and I think we kind of got robbed of that a little bit because we had two malefics opposing each other. So I actually feel like the triple conjunction between the moon, Jupiter, and Venus is like a second pass for being able to feel this extra sweet energy. So you're going to want to mark that day down in your calendar when I get to it. And we're also going to see the sun in Leo forming a trine to Chiron and Aries this week. So that's why I feel like that's offering opportunities for healing. Then we will move into a dark moon in Leo. People get a little crabby when we have that. And that's going to be followed by a very Uranian new moon in Virgo with those squares. Now, when we have the new moon happen, and I do talk about this a little bit in my new moon video, there will be a finger of fate aspect that's going to be happening from the sun in Virgo to Saturn and Neptune in Aries to Pluto in Aquarius. And the new moon is actually the focal point of this yod. So it's basically saying in order to rework our boundaries, our goals, maybe have better self-awareness when it comes to, our energy levels, our beliefs, anything revolving around our vision, as well as profound change for the future, all of that is going to be brought on by better systems, better organization, better care. And obviously that new moon is going to set in motion what's going to be 6 months of some of this change. So that finger of God pointing to the new moon really is proving that this is paving the way for new routines, organization, and getting our affairs in order over the next month. So I think it can be a little irritating with inconjuncts. Obviously, it kind of feels like an itch that can't be scratched. But I think it is going to be really beneficial for some of us kind of getting into the swing of having a routine as we're kind of heading into a new season. So let's talk a little bit about the spotlight of the week, the Sun square Uranus in Gemini. Obviously, there can be some positives to this particular transit. I think one of them is that this is an aspect that really is about innovation and like thinking about how we can kind of build towards the future, right? Uranus. But it's innovation versus stability. We're also going to see themes like sudden changes in routine, breakthroughs in communication, as well as in health, because Virgo is going to be very much about health and systems and wellness. Also jobs, and Gemini is going to be dealing with communication, transportation, data, and kind of connection. Now, I do think that the main theme is like the rebellion against outdated structures. And a lot of that is because the South Node is in Virgo. So we're kind of breaking down old habits, structures, routines, jobs even. And Uranus coming in for this square is basically saying, well, that's being brought on by Uranus and Gemini things. Maybe new AI features. It could be new technology, new ways of learning, connecting, communicating, and traveling. Which may disrupt certain jobs and industries, but it's also kind of here to help us innovate and improve because it is still in a trine of Pluto and Aquarius. We've also seen Mars in Libra trining this as well. So it's brought up a lot of social opportunities and opportunities to connect and communicate. But I do think that this is saying that new developments when it comes to, the future of technology is going to be putting a lot of pressure on the healthcare system. It's also going to be putting pressure on anything that deals with the service industry. That's very much Virgo. So whether you're getting your hair cut, if you're walking the dog, if you're, cleaning, if you're organizing, also this is about, people who are servicing people in person. Maybe this is going to provide, faster services, better care, but obviously, it is going to destabilize some markets. I've also thought that with like the Mercury retrograde and some of these squares that are kind of coming up, that we may see that some of the layoffs that have happened in like recent weeks and months as a result of bringing in maybe new softwares or certain people and their job getting replaced by new tech, we may see like a bit of a reversal. We can kind of see that things are actually not functioning as well. So there may be some people who are changing jobs or going into different industries. Certainly that could be a positive manifestation of this. But other people might actually find out that they're coming back to work or they're returning. And I think you're going to see more of that like when we get into the eclipses in Virgo next month and we see planets that are kind of dancing with the South Node, and eventually when Mercury comes into Virgo as well. So I'll be kind of taking a look at that over the next couple of weeks. What does the square represent? Friction, right? Mental friction versus kind of, making sure that we're doing everything according to plan. Like Gemini and Virgo are both mutable signs, so they're flexible and they're both ruled by Mercury. So they're very much about travel, information, data, communication, learning, connection. But Gemini is a little bit more scattered, I think, with Uranus being in this sign. And the sun, moving into Virgo is going to talk about where we're kind of taking more action or where the priority is going to be. And in order to focus more on health, habits, and productivity, maybe we're having to kind of learn new skills or we're downloading new apps or we're reading new books or think this could be really beneficial for a lot of people who are wanting to start a walking routine. Uranus and Gemini could mean, hey, I'm tracking my steps now, or I'm going to be taking a look at, exactly how active I am, what my, my heart rate or any of those things are at, and you're trying to find ways to apply new systems and data or software to be able to kind of focus on health and habits or productivity. So if there was ever a week to be like, I'm getting into the new swing of walking, or I'm going to be using my stationary bike, or I'm getting on the treadmill, or, maybe I'm just getting into the habit of going for a walk on my lunch break, this could be a really great week to do that. But still, truth be told, the squares do create tension, and the opening square is going to represent, okay, now how are we getting down to business now that we've had some of these tech or communication or information kind of disruptions? So it will bring friction. This friction will be about kind of forcing growth through challenges. And squares always highlight conflict between planetary energies, and it's pushing us really to kind of balance the two and make adjustments and meet in the middle. So in this case, the sun's focus on identity and vitality, Virgo, systems, organization, health, is really clashing with Uranus's urge to say, you know what, we need freedom, we need more innovation, we need to be more spontaneous. In particular, I would say Uranus and Gemini can be about sudden changes and things going on with the air. We're going to notice that there's going to be a huge emphasis on health over the next couple of weeks as we go into Virgo season, and then we're going to have eclipses in Virgo. And I would say a lot of this might be connected to lung health. It might be connecting to air quality. It can also be connecting to health when it comes to our local kind of communities, our local schools. And anything that deals with, transportation, okay? So systems and organization, transportation, changes in schedules can potentially happen with that as well. Now, I do think that, this transit is a bit of a wild card, and you can't really talk about a Uranus aspect or a Uranus transit without being like, well, there is the potential that this or that can happen, because Uranus does not like to kind of be pinpointed and assumed that it's going to do any one particular thing. This is a planet that deals with rebellion, and it's also about unexpected events. So while the sun in Virgo is craving order and efficiency, Uranus is kind of stirring the pot. And likely we can see with this square that it's bringing some disruptions to our daily life, in particular transportation delays, issues with technology and issues with like glitches, especially with gadgets and things at work. And communication and how we communicate. So I'm thinking like, is there going to be email issues? Are we going to see problems that are going to be with certain computer softwares and systems? And, it is possible that we can see some tech failures. And I'm anticipating that there's going to be some surprising news. For some, you guys might see that there is like a flash of genius that really upends a plan or a way of doing things in your daily routine. Just know that it's unpredictable because Uranus thrives on chaos, and that chaos sparks some kind of change. Now, both Gemini as well as Virgo are ruled by Mercury. So something that we're actually going to see is when we have the new moon and then when we have the Sun square Uranus, that'll be happening all about the same time, Mercury is just getting ready to leave its post shadow. So this means that Mercury is hovering around the degrees where it stationed retrograde last month in July. I believe that's around 14 or 15 degrees, but it will not be out of the shadow. So I have a feeling that this can actually be indicating that this can create a little bit of like some tension on the back end of the post-shadow retrograde. We can see that maybe stuff that was breaking down or things that were going sideways or things that weren't working or where there was drama, now we're figuring out how to actually make the change and how to innovate and kind of adapt. But we can still see that, with Mercury freshly direct after ending its retrograde as of the 11th, less than a week ago, it can bring opportunities for clarity and kind of working through, our thought processes. And I think that Mercury is acting almost like as a mediator because it rules both Uranus as well as Virgo. So it's helping us kind of like articulate innovative ideas and find maybe logical ways of handling some of the surprises or creative ways, right? It's going to be in Leo. So it adds a little bit more confidence and creativity and making it easier to express, some of these breakthroughs without having a total meltdown. Now, what you're going to want to watch for, obviously, is just sudden shifts when it comes to your health routines. Maybe you experience some tech or travel glitches. You might notice that there is just more of this rambunctiousness that's in the air. We also might be feeling a little bit more rebellious when it comes to how we're connecting and communicating. But I like this for flashes of insight and unexpected opportunities. the key here is to not be rigid and be flexible, because mutable signs really need us to be flexible. So do squares. Otherwise, there can be some tension. And I would also say that if you have any personal planets, 0 to about 2 degrees of the mutable signs, so that would be Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, this is going to be impacting you the most, especially Gemini, Virgo, but also I would say Leo and Aquarius, rising signs, because Aquarius, you're ruled by Uranus modern day chart-wise, and then Leo, you're ruled by the sun. So you guys will be feeling the effects of this as well. I think in terms of how to make the most of this transit, I would just say expect the unexpected. Like anything goes when you're under a Uranus square. It'll only last for about a day or two, according to Sun square Uranus and the orbs. But because the new moon features a Sun square Uranus, we may actually be feeling this energy for the better part of the next month. So we kind of have to, stay on our toes a little bit. Maybe it is going to shake things up. I mean, I would say embrace change as a catalyst for improvement and keeping an open mind. Uranus and Gemini is very much about that. So maybe you use this as an opportunity to innovate your daily habits. Maybe you're trying, new tech for productivity, or you're shaking up your wellness routine. This is how I would use it. But obviously you're going to have the square in different houses. And if you guys stay tuned to the end, I'm going to show you where the square is taking place. But above all, I would say ground yourself, because we are entering into Virgo season. So that means maybe we do need to journal, we need to organize our space and kind of come up with new solutions. In terms of global and personal predictions, I think that the big one is just there will likely be some kind of tech disruption. What? I don't know. This is a very similar Mercury retrograde that we saw last year when we had the big Windows error fail, and that impacted all those people who were working, and then it also impacted all those airlines. This go around, we ended up, I think, having a issue. I think it was it Hotmail? I think it was Hotmail. And it was actually, I think, just before the Mercury retrograde started, but there was a bunch of issues with Hotmail accounts being down. Obviously not as, maybe didn't impact Americans as much, but definitely I saw a lot of issues with people in Europe that were having problems with the outage and being able to work and do business. So, we might see some tech disruptions. I do think that there could potentially be some breakthroughs in science or communication. And we can definitely see themes revolving around, the labor market, anything connecting to health issues. But personally, I think this is going to trigger, for some people, a little bit of anxiety around control. But ultimately, it's leading to, liberating changes in how we're actually structuring our life. So this is all baked into that new moon. If you guys haven't seen that new moon video, definitely check it out. All right, so let's get into the week ahead. Let's talk about what this week is going to look like. It's a bit of a grab bag of stuff. So if you guys are watching this on Sunday, August 17th, happy Sunday to my Sunday crew. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are digging this energy that is pretty social, actually. Saturday into Sunday, we have seen that the moon in Gemini has been creating a grand air trine. So it's been very social last night. That is continuing into Sunday morning, and we are going to see that while the moon is in Gemini, it is sextiling the sun in Leo at some point. So this is the nice last aspect that we're going to see before we get into the new moon phase. One thing that will happen today that may feel kind of fated for some people is we're going to see the moon come into a square with the north and south node. Okay, so that's going to be happening right around kind of dinner time. I'm Central Time here in Texas, so it's going to be around 6 o'clock my time, so it's going to be around 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. When the moon squares the north and the south node, it's squaring its own nodes. So this is basically going to kind of work in a way where, okay, yes, there's no real major aspects taking place on Sunday today. However, we are looking at that square as changing circumstances, events. Gemini could be places we go, people we meet, things we learn, stuff we read, podcasts we listen to. And it's definitely about information and learning and communication. So the fact that the moon has already been in a sextile to Mercury, which rules Gemini since yesterday, means that communication's been better. It also means that maybe we're working on creative projects, we're planning trips, we're connecting with creative collaborators. But that moon is at an 18, so it can be some really significant news pertaining to what? Health, habits, our work, our routines, our jobs. So watch for some of those events. And there's no major transits, but that Venus trine the North Node is still kind of lingering. So for some of you guys, you're still feeling like that tendency to want to kind of lean into what is kind of futuristic when it comes to our emotions, what we're healing, what intuitions we're kind of tapping into. So we still have some of that sweetness that's kind of hanging on. So I like that aspect. And then what we are going to see for the daily vibe with the moon in Gemini is that it's just lighthearted, it's chatty. We do find that the Gemini moon brings out more of like a curious nature. Maybe we're a little bit more active on Sunday, getting out and about and doing things, and it keeps us very social and mentally stimulated. However, that square to the North and South node, it does bring up karmic tension around, letting go of perfectionism, Virgo, and tapping into our intuition, our emotions, our dreams, things that are more kind of sensitive. So that's why I'm mentioning the fact that, Venus and Jupiter are still close in proximity, but they're also still trining the North Node. So for some people, it feels a little bit more emotional, sentimental still, and really focusing on home and security. And being that the moon is the ruler of both Jupiter and Venus while it's in Cancer, this can be about communicating and expressing ourselves, maybe communicating with neighbors, with family, with relatives, and learning how to kind of express, how we've been feeling or what's changing with our home or with our family. So I think for today, to make the most of it, to navigate Sunday, I would encourage you guys to engage in conversations or short trips. I think that will help. But obviously this is about, avoiding overthinking fate versus free will. I think Pisces is very much about fate, and Virgo is like, no, I have control over things. And this can be a really positive day for, walking, journaling, learning, communicating, sharing. And that's going to really open things up when it comes to the creative process and also being a little bit more heart-centered as Mercury is in Leo. So nothing crazy happening on Sunday. It's still a pretty social and kind of fun day. The moon will continue to keep moving through Gemini overnight, and it'll come into a sextile with the sun, it looks like, the early morning hours on Monday. So whenever the moon and the sun are in harmony through sextile trine, it means that things flow a little bit better. So I think Monday is a little bit smoother than it's been in recent weeks for the most part. It's not a manic Monday. We will see that the moon being in Gemini now is really picking up that sextile between Mars and Mercury, and they will actually sextile pretty much throughout the entire week. You're going to see it within a few degrees, but there will be only, I think, 2 exact sextiles. What does this mean? Basically, when Mercury and Mars sextile each other, it gives us the opportunity to be more productive and also kind of diplomatic in the morning. So creating, connecting with partners, making plans, things like that, we can definitely do that a little bit easier in the morning. And this is beautiful if you need to have like a morning team huddle, or if you're needing to make plans with a partner, if you're working on creative projects. I think that can be really wonderful. And then we will see the moon ingress out of Gemini, and that's going to be happening in the afternoon, kind of like the later afternoon, and then it's going to move into Cancer. Okay, so positive is that on Monday, I feel like a lot of us can get a lot of stuff done. So if you're having to sign contracts, if you're having to make proposals, if you're making pitches, if you want to have a team meeting, do it in the morning, do it sometime before midday, because I think you're going to get the most out of it before the moon changes signs and it goes into Cancer. Because once it does, even though the moon is at home in its own sign, the Cancer moon's immediately going to come into square with Saturn, which could bring up some emotional blockages, and also this feeling of, being kind of torn between, what we want, or need in order to kind of grow and evolve or be brave or be more independent versus, the past and our heavy feelings and things that are kind of going on a domestic level. And Moon square Saturn is not going to make it ideal for being able to connect to other people. And we will also see the moon come into a square with Neptune. And then by the end of the evening, we're going to see that moon come into a square with Mars. So it's not as friendly for the rest of the day on Monday. So I think the key transit to be kind of watching is Mercury sextile Mars. So harmonious action and bold communication. If you want to make the most of that, tap into it sometime before midday. The beginning of the day on Monday feels very productive and, like I said, diplomatic with aspects to Mars and Libra. However, it's going to shift to, when it's in Cancer, emotional, kind of blocked a little bit. We might feel a little bit more nostalgic. And obviously, because that moon is going to square Saturn as well as Neptune, it brings up foggy boundaries and restrictions that we have personally, and like issues being able to, get clarity on emotions, issues revolving around home and housing and family. Like it just becomes a little bit more difficult. So that moon is going to be kind of landlocked in a square around 3 p.m. Central Time. And it'll start to come out of a square with Neptune and Saturn around dinner time. And then later in the evening, we're going to see overnight the moon come into a square with Mars. And it looks like that's going to actually be at a 7. So that could bring some relationship disharmony really, really late in the evening on Monday, going into very early on Tuesday morning. Once we get over that kind of hump of the moon squaring these placements in Aries where there's tension, and then also squaring Mars where there could be friction, things actually get a whole lot better. So what you guys need to know about Monday is that, I feel like to navigate the day, use that sextile early on for assertive talks, for decisions, for signing contracts, for meetings, then nurture yourself at home, right? Come home, get comfy, make sure you eat well, make sure you're paying attention to your emotions. Maybe some of you guys are going to feel like you have to kind of set boundaries to avoid emotional drain. So be it, especially in a relational matter, right? So then this is going to take us into Tuesday, which is the 19th. And, the 19th and the 20th, I really like, all right? And a lot of that is because, like I was saying last week when we had the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in Cancer, it was happening around 14 degrees, and Venus was directly tied to Mars, which was in opposition to Saturn and Neptune. And it was like, I was kind of like laughing. I felt like one of those like kind of cynical astrologers where, everybody's like, oh my God, 8-8, it's Lionsgate, and Jupiter's conjunct Venus, and everything's magical. And I'm looking around going like, Mars is in opposition to Saturn. Like, this is not magical. And even though Venus is conjunct Jupiter, like it did not feel sweet, except for everybody who I saw commenting that was like, I can't stop snacking, or I can't stop crying. I feel like, yeah, everybody was like snacking and just in their feelings. So if you feel like you were, personally harmed by the Saturn, Mars opposition, and you didn't get to enjoy your Venus-Jupiter conjunction, you're going to get a second pass at this on the 19th. You guys, this is the triple conjunction that I was talking about, where the moon is going to be meeting with Jupiter and with Venus. So just to break it down, the moon goes through, Cancer once a month, roughly every 28 days for about 2.5 days. So it's at home there. When that happens, we're much more emotionally in tune. We're much more sensitive. We're much more focusing on protecting things when it comes to women, family, homes, our homeland, property, family, all that stuff. Now, Jupiter, on the other hand, only spends about 1 year out of every 12 years in Cancer, and it's exalted there, which means it's extra sweet, very intuitive, very emotional, very sensitive, but also it's about emotional growth and intuition and abundance, right? We have an abundance of emotions. So when the moon and Jupiter come together in this sign, we're only going to get so many of those that are going to happen in a year, right? Roughly 11, 12, 13 times that you're going to see the moon that's going to go through in conjunct Jupiter. Now, Venus is there too. So you're not going to see a conjunction like this again, because next month, Venus is no longer going to be in Cancer. So this is the second pass that we're going to get. Probably, I would say, the 19th, so Tuesday, and Wednesday, the 20th, are my two favorite days. This is where you want to watch for the sweetness. Now, moon will conjunct Jupiter, and then it will conjunct Venus. And when the moon is moving through this particular sign, the only thing that we really kind of need to watch for is that in the morning, there is still a little bit of like a lingering, especially if you're an early riser, square to Mars. So if there was some tension that was going on Monday night in relationships, it could still be kind of bubbling over, Tuesday morning. But the moon conjunct Jupiter and Venus tells me, yes, people can be in their emotions and in their feelings, but we can also have a lot more joy. There could be more romance. There could be better opportunities for money. People can actually meet people. Like, I feel like we can actually smooth a lot of things over. And what I really love is that we have also got the moon meeting with Jupiter, and it's activating a trine to the north node. So we've got moon trine its own north node. We've got Jupiter that's actually coming in for a trine with the north node, and we've got Venus that's kind of starting to lose it. But when you have a stellium of this, many planets that are in this sign, it's going to definitely make things very watery. So yeah, I think Tuesday, the big theme is going to be the triple conjunction of these planets. And we will also see the sun in Leo coming into a trine with Chiron in Aries which is really friendly for creative healing, getting in touch with the inner child, self-expression, being or learning to be more in touch with our own inner healing, and being brave and being bold and kind of charismatic. So on Tuesday, the vibe that I'm getting is that it's very nurturing, it's very expansive, and obviously there's room for healing. And Venus rules not just luxury and relationships and money, but pleasure, right? Indulgences, things that feel good, smell good, taste good. So I'm liking some of these aspects for, okay, well, I need to focus on home or real estate or property, or I'm designing something in my home, or I'm buying furniture, or I'm bringing in art. Maybe you're trying to, rent or sell a home. This could be really beneficial for some people with this particular aspect. So abundance is flowing in home, family, or emotions. And then with the Sun trine Chiron, this is offering some kind of deep wound mending through self-expression. I think to navigate the day on Tuesday, I would say indulge in self-care, stay hydrated. If you can go for a swim, if you can get in a pool, if you can be by water, or maybe you can take a nice soak, that can be really beneficial as well. And this is really about connecting with loved ones, maybe cooking, a comforting meal, and being aware that, if we are open to it on Tuesday, we can actually heal old insecurities by kind of embracing this inner fire. So as we go throughout the day, you guys are actually going to see the moon coming into conjunction with Jupiter, and that Jupiter is at 15 degrees. So there could be good news. There could be some kind of awareness of something, good communication, great for contracts, negotiations, and things like that. And then the moon is going to pass Jupiter, and it's going to be heading towards Venus. And you will actually see overnight, as we're getting into Wednesday the 20th, we are then waking up Wednesday morning with the moon conjunct Venus. So I could see a lot of people waking up on Wednesday being like, I want something sweet, like I want donuts, I want pancakes, opt for fruit, obviously, if you guys can. I think that would be good with Venus. But definitely going to notice that we are craving attention, affection, sweetness. It might just be a little bit more of like a harmonious kind of beautiful day. So we get kind of the final totality of the 19th and the 20th of that triple conjunction. I would love to hear how it manifests for you guys. I'm very optimistic that if we have not seen positive things so far from the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, and I've heard from a lot of Cancer risings too. I know you guys are like going through it with Saturn, Neptune in your 10th, but you guys have gotten hit a lot with just some heavy stuff recently. Mars is in Libra. It's tearing through your 4th house. You've got Saturn, Neptune in your 10th house. I understand. But this may be one of the transits where you're like, actually, it was a really good day, or actually, emotionally, I'm doing better, or I'm more optimistic. So look for that. Moon conjunct Jupiter, people are happier. Certainly in Cancer, they're more emotional, but I think it can be beautiful for home and family or romantic relationships if you've got it like in the 5th or the 7th house. So as we get into the 20th, we wake up in the morning, moon's conjunct, obviously Venus, so that's wonderful. But there's always a catch, right? So the catch is once it starts to leave the conjunction with Venus, which it will in the morning, then the moon's going to start coming into a square with Chiron, okay? So it's almost like where there could be good growth, home and family things happening, or positive moves, or selling a house, moving into a bigger house, or changes that's going on with family. And obviously that can bring up some wounding. This is at a 26. So it can be about security issues, financial issues, things revolving around personal kind of capabilities, confidence, and self-esteem. So there is going to be a little bit of tension with that square. And then we will see the moon ingress into Leo in the evening. And when it does, it's going to light this chart up like a Christmas tree. So let's keep it moving. We will see the moon enter into Leo around 7 p.m. Central Time, so around dinner time for most people. And I think we should talk positive. So positive is that we have got the moon that is coming into a trine with Saturn in Aries, so that could bring emotional stability and structure. Moon's trining Neptune, so we can feel more compassionate, sensitive, receptive, inspired even, intuitive. And we also see that as the moon is going through Leo, it's approaching Mercury, so it's going to really enhance communication, especially on Thursday. And then it's going to start heading towards a sextile with Mars, which is going to reactivate the Mercury-Mars, where we're feeling really dynamic when it comes to partnerships and relational aspects. So great things, right? Lots of fire trines, lots of sextiles to Mars. What's difficult is now when the moon goes through Leo and we're focusing on, well, what do I want? What does the heart want? How can I have more fun? How can I take chances? Who am I in love with? How am I having playtime? What am I creating? The moon opposes Pluto, where it creates this like forced tension where we have to reconcile between what we enjoy, what we want to do versus, the trauma drama that's going on out in the world. So there can definitely be some intensity that can be kind of going on Wednesday night, particularly relationally with other people. Oppositions are relational. So it can mean that there is some tension revolving around, well, my friend's going through something, or there is some drama on the internet, or there's something kind of going on where, there's tension between two opposing sides. I would lean into the moon sextile Uranus because I feel like through keeping an open mind and communicating, we can make our way through it. But certainly I think that, on Wednesday, we're going to see a lot of emotional depths in the morning. As the moon also moves into Leo, we're moving into the dark moon phase because we're preparing for this up and coming new moon in Virgo. So this is now saying, okay, we're a little crabby, we're a little, grumpy. It is time for release, and we're preparing for introspection. And when that moon squares Chiron midday, there is going to be some themes revolving around healing. So watch that. I would say, oppositions and trines bring power struggles, but supportive structure all day long. And there is potential for healing crisis midday, and then dramatic and transformative energies as the moon moves into Leo and opposes Pluto and Aquarius. So I think on Wednesday, this is the day that's like, oh, okay, we're prepped and primed to kind of like release what no longer serves us, especially because it's a dark moon and this is about embracing creativity in the evening. Just watch out for some of those intense confrontations. Hello, trying to speak here, tongue-tied. And the moon will come out of the opposition with Pluto in the evening hours, and then it's going to keep moving on. So this is now going to take us to Thursday, the 21st. Another great day on tap, another great communication day. So I liked Monday morning. I think I like this one even more. So Thursday morning, the 21st, can be really, really great for communication. The moon, as it moves through Leo, it's going to come into conjunction with Mercury. So this could be when we see those tech glitches. Obviously, touch wood, Mercury's still in post-shadow. But there can be some stuff going on here. And it looks like Mercury and the moon are going to meet at around 10 degrees. There we go, 10. So that's a Capricorn degree. So it's about what? Business, bosses, maturity, timing, things that take a lot of structure and planning. This is like a Saturn Capricorn degree. Also about leadership, right? Leo is leaders. 10 degrees can deal with government. So government, leadership, opportunities to like come out and publicly make announcements. So there could be a big announcement that's coming. Obviously, Mercury and the moon are both connected to the sun, and the sun is coming into conjunction with Regulus. So this is going to be about royalty. So there's going to be some kind of news maybe about royal families, some kind of news about leaders, and obviously some drama revolving around that. But the aspects are still pretty friendly. Moon and Mercury are sextiling Mars. Obviously, there is still a very loose trine to Saturn and Neptune, but it's there, and a very loose sextile to Uranus, but it's there. So is there going to be some big announcement? I mean, perhaps. I know that, 28, 29 degrees, I think, is President Trump's ascendant. So I'd be watching to see what's happening the 21st, the 22nd. There may be a moment where there's like all eyes on him about something. And this is technically the moon and Mercury are 12 signs away from the sun. So it can mean that, there's some unexpected, news that's coming out about international relationships, about some kind of opportunity to, have peace, to kind of end things, to conclude things. So I'm wondering, is this going to be, kind of tied to some of the recent visits that he's going to be having this particular week? I'm actually filming this the Friday before you guys watch it. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that on Friday, later today, there will be meetings between Putin and Trump, and it's taking place in Alaska. So is there some big announcement about that? Maybe, maybe I'm hoping. All right. And then let's see, on the rest of the day on the 21st, not much. Moon is kind of activating, Mercury, Mars sextile. So fiery communication in action. And Thursday to me feels very confident, very expressive, and motivated. So this Leo energy is really amplifying boldness, perfect for creative pursuits and or taking the lead. I would say Thursday is a really good day for speaking your truth and taking initiative in some way. It's all about kind of channeling, this into passion projects or something that is creative something that you enjoy, that you can have fun with. You just want to watch out for some of the ego clashes. Those can definitely come up with all these planets in Leo. So it looks like you're going to have the Mercury conjunct Moon, Mercury sextile Mars, pretty much late morning into mid-afternoon. And that's when you can get a lot of creative work done, or you can be planning something fun. And then the moon's going to keep moving, and overnight it's going to continue to stay in Leo. So then we're going to be getting into what will be the 22nd on Friday. And now we are getting ready to come into what will be the new moon in Virgo pretty soon. So we're the final moments of the Leo season. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Basically on Friday, you're going to see the only real aspect is that the moon is going to come into a trine with Chiron. Okay, so similar to earlier in the week when we saw the sun trine Chiron, which was like creative healing, inner child work, working on taking bold kind of risks and leading with our heart, the moon's doing some of the same stuff. So what you want to watch for is that right after that trine happens, let's look at this. So we're going to have the trine here. Actually, it looks like it's right around the same time. The moon will trine Chiron, and then the sun is going to enter into Virgo in the evening hours. So the 22nd will be the kickoff of Virgo season. So happy Virgo season to my Virgos. I hope it's a good one for you guys. And this is going to be obviously sitting at 0 degrees. So this is where we're also going to have the new moon. So what's interesting about Friday is that there will be mutual reception between the sun in Virgo and Mercury in Virgo. Why is that? Well, the sun is in a mercurial sign. Mercury is in a solar sign. So even though they're not making an aspect to one another, they're representing the same thing, right? In order to be productive, in order to help, in order to care for something, to tend to something, we have to really tap into, part of the pride being tied to service, right? Virgo, health, order. And we have to communicate in ways that are bold. That's about being a leader. That's being creative, being charismatic. So I like that aspect. I also like Mercury at a 12 because it can be very intuitive. It can be crazy too, but it can be intuitive. So there can definitely be more talks about international relations with leadership, I think, coming up, and also initiatives when it comes to health and food or service or care. So what you're going to find on Friday is that really healing is a huge focus. And there is some sense of kind of like preparing for something, because the sun in Virgo is going to shift to details, while the trine that we're seeing between the moon and Chiron is putting a huge focus on healing and like easing self-doubt. And then overnight, we'll see that the new moon comes in, and it's about setting intentions for fresh starts. So this will be the first of what will be 2 new moon in Virgo. So unusual to have 2 new moons in the same sign in the solar month. One is going to be at 0 degrees first thing in the morning on August 23rd. So that'll be very, very early Saturday morning. The next one is going to be the solar eclipse that we're going to have next month, which is going to be at 29 degrees. So it's kind of the beginning of a cycle, the ending of a cycle. So the universe wants us to do double duty when it comes to cleaning up the Virgo area of our chart. That's the conclusion I've come to. This new moon is interesting. We'll get into it in a second. But I would just say on the themes of Friday, this is a time where you really want to organize and you want to plan, because the new moon's going to be very early on Saturday morning. If you need to clear something out, if you need to let something go, if you need to cord cut, if you need to release something and you're like, this just isn't good for me or it's getting in my way, do it Friday night. Friday night's a good time to set that intention, because you're in the dark moon and you're kind of phasing things out. And I feel like the tips really to navigate Friday is to organize and plan, use the mutual reception for clear thinking, setting practical goals for health and work. At a 12, you might have to create a vision board. You might have to meditate on something. You might say, hey, I'm going to pull a couple tarot cards, or I'm going to get a reading, whatever it is. Like, you will get some kind of insight that's going to give you the confidence and the clarity to take those steps forward when you have the new moon. So kind of tap into your intuition and your dreams. And then we get to what will be Saturday, the 23rd. And like I said, very early in the morning, we have the new moon in Virgo. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I did a video on it, but let me just say this. This in conjunction or quincunx is Saturn, and Saturn is retrograde in Aries, which means we are reviewing and reassessing who we are, what's our purpose, what are we capable of, are we mature enough, are we ready? And certainly Saturn, Neptune, and Aries has brought a lot of question marks in that department, I think on an individual level for people that's like, can I handle this? Do I believe in this? Am I seeing this clearly? And then Neptune is also in conjunct or quincunx this new moon. So, Aries is the sign of man. Virgo is the sign of healing and health and wellness. And it's also about dealing with disease and accidents. So this new moon can really represent, hey, there's this blind spot, in the Virgo area of your chart. And we're going to show you, through some kind of potential chaotic situation or some kind of like curveball, something that's going to disrupt you a little bit, but it's also going to wake you up and it's going to make you aware of where you're not seeing things so clearly, or maybe where you've had blinders on. You're also going to see the new moon in conjunct or quincunx Pluto, which is bringing up some kind of massive collective change for everyone, the collective, the future when it comes to tech and science and AI and all this stuff. So the fact that we have two inconjuncts and a sextile forms this yod, or the finger of fate. If I had to put my finger on, literally, pun intended, if I had to put my finger on one of the better new moons all year to really create change, this would be it. Because it's uncomfortable, and it makes you so uncomfortable that it's like really incentivizing you to kind of come up with a new system or with a new plan and to get out of your own way. I think the other thing that's interesting about this is that, we do see trines between Pluto and Uranus. We do see sextiles between Uranus and Saturn and Neptune, and also Pluto and Saturn and Neptune. So all the outer planets here really have a lot to say. Everybody but Jupiter. Jupiter's just chilling, doing his own thing. And that tells me that whatever new things are seated in Virgo is going to play a huge role in all of these outer planets, which is impacting everybody collectively. It's not just us personally. So it's about getting our affairs in order. And on the 23rd, we'll have that new moon that's going to be at 0 degrees. So innovative, sure, but tense. And I think the new moon's yod configuration points to adjustments that we're having to make in dreams, in responsibility, and transformation. And then you factor that in with the fact that later in the day, the moon first and then the sun will square Uranus. Okay, so you'll see the moon come in for a square with Uranus. That looks like that's going to happen first thing in the morning. Most of you guys are going to be asleep because between 2 and 3 a.m. is when we have the new moon and then the moon square Uranus. But certainly in some parts of the world, there could be things going on. And then as we go throughout the day, we will then see the sun come into a square with Uranus. But that looks like that might even be overnight. But still, from the time of the new moon, pretty much to the 24th, you're going to feel the effects of the sun square Uranus. But yeah, that looks like it's going to happen in the PM hours. Once again, Mercury's the ruler here, so it's not really doing much other than preparing to come out of shadow once we get to maybe Sunday. It has to hit about 15 degrees, and then the shadow's over. So my thought is for the new moon, this is about planting new seeds for routine, but we got to stay flexible here and maybe meditate on some of our long-term visions amid some of the potential, curveballs or disruptions or delays that are going to be kind of happening. And I think that this is, with both of these being ruled by Mercury, and Mercury's in the 5th house, a lot of it's going to deal with, finding better ways to communicate, maybe with romantic partners, how to be dealing with children, how to be launching businesses. I have been loving Uranus in Gemini, and I've been trying to use it more in like a standard way, not so much for my chart, where I'm like, wow, okay, actually some of these new softwares and things, like, they can be really helpful. It can help me be more productive. It's helping me come up with to-do lists. It's helping me create grocery lists. It's helping me maintain, all of my to-dos. It's getting things organized for work and productivity. So I think it's been very helpful, but I think some people are going to find that particularly when it comes to self-employment, right? Because taking risks and taking chances is Leo, Mercury and Leo, that there can be all kinds of new things you can learn with some of this software to kind of initiate new businesses. So I wonder if any of you guys are doing that too, but it's very doable here. And then we're going to get to the 24th, which will be Sunday. And get your buckets and mops ready, guys, okay? I can just see so many like frenzied moms with the sun in Gemini, the moon in Gemini, the sun in Virgo, the moon in Virgo, squaring Uranus and Gemini. There's a lot of like, I'm cleaning house, and also just kind of running around like a madman. Like when we see some of these like mutable squares, it's like everything's kind of changing at one time. The squares are also going to be happening at 1 degree, right? So if we follow degree theory, in a nutshell, it's the actions that we are taking on a personal level, right? What we're getting organized and doing versus what we're saying we're doing. So ones always correlate with Aries. And Aries degrees, one of Virgo, one of Gemini, are things like what we construct, what we build, construction workers, buildings, things that we produce, production, soldiers, armies, uniforms, military, anything that deals with weapons, angles, corners, engineers, something sharp, to be brave, hardworking, industrious, the head, the nose, anything red, anything that deals with flames or heat or speed, physical injuries, wounds, cuts, to lose, fights, blows, anything that deals with sheep, Germany, things that are hot or spicy, sports, sportsmen, anything that deals with muscles, and the help of men, to be leaders, to be the first. Well, Gemini deals with the hands, the fingers, sometimes even the shoulders, and Virgo can be about accidents and illnesses, nervous stress and tension, and how that's impacting the body, how that's impacting performance, how that's impacting digestion, right? And I would say this would be a really good week with Pluto trine Uranus, with Uranus sextile Saturn and Neptune, to like have a breathwork exercise. Like get on YouTube, go and look at some breathwork exercises, or just go for a walk, go for a drive to break up some of this tension. But yeah, basically Sunday is a good day now that we have passed the new moon phase, as the moon is going through Virgo and hitting on the south node, to clear things out, clear the air, clear the drama, clear your schedule, and get things, I think, a little bit better functioning. So we will see the moon conjunct the south node. That does bring up emotions. There can be an emotional clearing. Obviously, there is also this touching on what we're overdoing. So we could be overworking, overworking out, overly critical. We could be getting, ahead of ourselves. And maybe part of this is about tapping more into the north node, right? Jupiter's now trining it, where it's like the emotions, the home. And for some people, organizing and cleaning the home is therapeutic. Very Jupiter in Cancer. It's like, well, things feel better here. We move things around. We organize stuff. That can be beneficial. And I would watch for the moodiness. That's going to be first thing in the morning as the moon crosses the south node at an 18. This is also very much connected to health. Watching our health, watching our pets, watching anything when it revolves around coworkers, jobs. Obviously, it's Sunday. Not all of you guys are going to be working. But this is a key transit, because not only are we clearing and detaching from the past, but it's also feeding off of Mercury, which is about to leave shadow. Once it hits 15 degrees, it's done. And when Mercury turned retrograde, it was happening, at a critical, degree. It was like 15 degrees of a fixed sign. So that's halfway through the sign. So it's pretty strong. So the key transit is that on Sunday, Mercury is leaving shadow, which means communication should actually improve. And whatever there's been breakdowns or miscommunications about, it's going to ease up a little bit. Venus will be hitting 29 degrees of Cancer. So this is the last kind of moments for Venus in Cancer, if you happen to be Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, or personal planet, which is really emotional. It's much more reflective. And then what we're going to see next week is it's going to go into Leo, and it's going to be more bold and dynamic. But as Venus is nearing that late degree, we are feeding off of the opposition of Pluto. Mercury was retrograde in opposition to that Mars. So you'll notice some of the tension maybe that's building in relationship dynamics or financial situations. I kind of see, Sunday as a day where it can be much more reflective. Maybe we're taking action now that we had the new moon, but we're kind of noticing we're overwhelmed. And I would say this is a day where I would keep an eye on any intensity that's brewing in relationships, while Mercury post-shadow is going to be clearing miscommunications. So think of the moon south node connection on Sunday as like we're clearing out past patterns. We're letting things go, right? Great for like inner child healing, especially with Mercury 12th house to the sun and the moon. I think a lot of this is just being like, okay, or we're clearing out any relationship drama that's been kind of, brewing during this Mercury retrograde. So Sunday, declutter physically and emotionally, focus on deepening connections, but avoid power struggles when it comes to love and finances. You guys are going to start feeling that Sunday into next week when Venus goes into Leo, but we'll talk about that in a future video. So that's the week ahead. I'd love to share with you guys, especially for the 12 rising signs, just some insight, maybe some tips and predictions for how to navigate the Sun-Uranus square, what to maybe kind of like watch for, and how to maybe navigate some of the curveballs that are kind of coming your way. As always, I am a Western astrologer, so that's the astrology that I like to practice. So I'm going to be looking at this under the lens of the Western whole rising signs. And you're going to be seeing this basically just as like a reminder, pretty much from like the 23rd, I would say, through the 25th. Okay, so the 23rd through the 25th is when you're going to see the Sun-Uranus square the strongest. And let's go back to this. There we go. And let's bring up the 12 Western rising signs. So to make the most of my predictions, I highly recommend listening to your rising sign first. This is going to tell you exactly which houses are kind of making the square aspect and where this stuff is playing out. Know that the sun is the faster moving planet. So as the new moon comes in and it's squaring Uranus, it's now showing you the first kind of challenge of the Uranus in Gemini vibes. So let's get into it. Let's see what we got going on here with the 12 rising signs. So I'm going to start with Aries and Aries risings. And you guys are seeing that the sun is moving through the 6th house in Virgo. It's coming into a square with Uranus in the 3rd house in Gemini. So if you're an Aries rising, Aries sun, even an Aries moon, the 6th house represents work, health, and routines, right? And then Uranus in Gemini is about, communication, learning, and siblings. So when you see the square, it means that there's going to be tension between your daily habits and mental breakthroughs. And in terms of what to expect, there can be sudden ideas or new, news or something that's disrupting your workflow. You get a phone call out of the blue, your schedule changes, you've got an appointment you got to get to, you have to leave work early. And this can be disrupting your workflow, obviously. So I would say look for tech issues at work or innovative health hacks. I think this would be a wonderful way to use it, kind of coming into the eclipse that's going to be happening for you next month. And this is also about really kind of, adapting to some of the changes for productivity gains and really focusing on your goals when it comes to productivity, scheduling, and health. Good luck, Aries. All right, we've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? You're going to be experiencing the sun going through Virgo in your 5th house, coming into a square with Uranus in your 2nd house. Now, the 5th house is about your kids, creativity, having fun, hobbies, romance, and your 2nd house is going to be about values, money, resources, what you possess. So the theme of this square is going to be conflict between self-expression and financial stability, or I guess in your case, instability. So, not allowing numbers in a bank account to define how happy you are, what you have, or what you possess, which could be a little complex. I know Uranus is shaking things up in your money zone. But the theme of this square is really about unexpected expenses, potentially income shifts, affecting your leisure. And this is about embracing creative side hustles that can provide you with some kind of stability. Keep in mind that, Uranus is trining Pluto still. So some of you guys are kind of pivoting a little bit professionally, being open to change your career or how you make money. Maybe you're thinking about, wow, there's something I'd like to do that's going to be a lot more creative and a lot more fun, but is it going to be stable? And also, do I feel good about the way that I'm kind of making money? So just something to kind of marinate on this week. All right, we've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You guys are going to be the instigators this week. You have got the sun going through Virgo in your 4th house, which is obviously going to be dealing with your home, your family, your roots, your property, your private life, and it's in conflict. It's in a square with Uranus in your sign. So if you happen to be 0 to 2 degrees of Gemini, sun, moon, or rising, keep an eye, watch out for what's kind of going on here, because I do think that there is some tension between your home and yourself and your identity. Now, the theme of this square between the 1st and the 4th houses, number one, I'll tell you, life gets really loud when you've got squares that are happening in the cardinal houses or the angular houses. So you'll feel like there is this sense maybe this week where you're like, oh my God, there is this upheaval going on in your personal identity. And that could be, who am I outside of my family? Who am I outside of my job? How do I, want to kind of break free? What new things or places, do I want to experience? And I think for a lot of you guys, this is going to be bringing up some surprising self-discoveries that are your goals now. Or maybe there's some restlessness kind of coming up that deals with travel or education. And these discoveries are really kind of shaking up family dynamics. So for some of you, it might mean, well, it's time to relocate or it's time to renovate. And suddenly you have this need for like more emotional freedom. So you can be feeling a little restless, a little bit more than usual. But lean into, I would say, the fact that, Uranus is trining Pluto. So whether it's travel, education, or just changing your beliefs, it's part of the plan, even if it clashes with family or the past. And Mercury is going to be in a sextile with Mars pretty much all week. So I do feel like you can communicate a lot more boldly and creatively with other people and be able to kind of get your point across in a very passionate manner. Good luck. All right, Cancer and Cancer risings, you guys are going to be experiencing the Sun in Virgo in your 3rd house, which deals with communication, siblings, short distance trips, gadgets, in a square to Uranus and Gemini in your 12th house, which is more subconscious. It deals with secrets, closure, and endings. So kind of like the conscious versus the unconscious here. Whenever you're dealing with the 12th to the 3rd, or sometimes even the 12th to the 9th, there's definitely a lot of like philosophical things that come up and, conversations you weren't aware of or ideas that kind of come out of the blue. And the theme of the square is about mental clarity clashing with hidden disruptions. Okay, so there could be things that are suddenly changing or news that's coming to you that's about changes with joint finances or things that are connected to like your intuition trying to get your attention or your dreams. Now that Uranus is in your 12th house, dreams can be very vivid. And I think that, as for what I would expect, there can be intuitive flashes or secrets revealed via conversations. So watch for subconscious rebellions that can be affecting your mindset. 12th house is definitely self-undoing. So like where you're afraid to have conversations, where you're afraid to speak out, send an email, talk to somebody. And this could be a sibling, a relative, a neighbor. Maybe there's some fear revolving around, health or communication. And then I would say, don't avoid it. Stay open. You're ruled by the moon. So you've got this new moon in the 3rd house saying, hey, it's time to kind of, do something a little bit different here, kind of clear out the mental static and be more focused on getting down to details. And you are one of the signs that would really benefit from journaling, walking, anything that deals with breath work or breathing to just navigate some of these energies a little bit better. But definitely really prioritize, I would say, having some of the difficult conversations and being able to connect with people in a better way. It's very obvious too, especially if you're navigating stuff at work or stuff financially. This is about really just sitting down and having the combo, sending the email, booking the meeting, anything like that. All right, good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the Sun in Virgo in your 2nd house, which is going to deal with your finances, possessions, your values, your self-esteem, coming into a square with Uranus in Gemini in your 10th house. Well, this will affect you, Leo, because you're ruled by the Sun. So the fact that the Sun's in your 2nd house, squaring Uranus in the 11th, does tell me that there is going to be a bit of a clash between your values or your goals or your needs versus that of someone else. And the theme here is your value system versus, social or friend surprises, unexpected changes with friends or social plans kind of changing. It is possible for some of you guys that there could be sudden changes in friendships that can be impacting your income or relationships with certain networks, relationships with certain platforms. Because Uranus is obviously connected to relationships, it's in the friend zone, so it can mean, I suddenly decided that I wanted to join this online networking event. Boom, maybe it gave me the opportunity to find a job, make more money, bring more income. But also, you have a falling out with the wrong person or the wrong situation, and it can lead to some kind of financial change. Want to be careful here, Leo, especially as you're kind of seeing eclipses coming into your financial houses here over the next month. There is going to be some financial fluctuations. Perhaps this could mean that your goals are shifting, revolving around your values, and you're ready to kind of upend them. But regardless, I would say watch for the sudden changes. And, I think maybe network innovatively for new opportunities and ways to make money and connect with people socially as well. Okay? Good luck. Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, guys? You guys are one of the main characters of this storyline. You and Gemini. In particular, if you have anything in Virgo 0 to about 2 degrees, this is potent for you, as not only do you have a new moon which is going to lay the groundwork for the next 1 to 6 months where there's a lot of changes between your career and your identity. But the sun will come into a square with Uranus. So as the sun and the new moon are sitting in your first house, if you're a Virgo rising, this is putting an emphasis on new goals, your appearance, your identity, what you're changing about yourself, and it's coming into conflict with Uranus in your career house, or it deals with bosses, it deals with public images. And I kind of see this as, the theme of the square, personal reinvention versus professional shocks. A lot of you guys are going to be noticing that there is a lot of identity shifts that are happening as a result of this. I don't think it's just this. I think it's also south nodes in your sign. Eclipses are going to be happening next month in your sign. And this is really saying that your identity has to shift, or you have to be willing to break away with something and not be super critical of yourself if you're thrown some career curveballs. Now, I would say embrace radical changes for authentic success, but I would also say there is potentially going to be some tension or stress that you can have with unexpected changes at work, with employees, with changes of offices, with changes of schedules. And I do feel like the theme here for you is you have kind of known that this is coming. Like Mercury has been retrograde in your 12th house. So a lot of you guys are knowing that you are getting ready to have a career change and you've been thinking about it behind the scenes, and now you're really walking the walk and talking the talk, or making the physical or the dramatic kind of self shifts to kind of ease your way into what could be a new career identity or a new schedule. So don't overwork yourself. Uranus rules, obviously, work and health. So there could be a little bit of tension that's coming up for you guys health-wise. So definitely keep an eye on your health. I know some of you guys are healing, or some of you guys have been kind of taking time away, but you'll kind of see that theme still for the next month. Good luck. Libra risings. You guys are going to be experiencing the sun going through Virgo in your natal 12th house, which is going to be dealing with your subconscious, maybe being alone, isolation, spirituality, self-undoing, coming into a square with Uranus in Gemini in your 9th house. All right, so for you, my Libras, obviously, the theme of this square can be a little bit more cerebral. It can be a little bit more about healing, your inner stuff, like Virgo in the 12th house, private healing, rest, recuperation, dealing with stuff that maybe you haven't dealt with. That can be about, work issues. It can also be about emotional or psychological healing. And the tension that's kind of coming up revolving around belief in system upheavals, very much Uranus in Gemini in the 9th. Now, this could be also higher education, traveling, right? There could be some sudden unexpected changes revolving around traveling, your beliefs, education even. So all of these things kind of get triggered. And I would say for Libra risings, what to expect is that there can be specific, sudden spiritual insights. There can also be, like I said, travel disruptions. Maybe it's revealing hidden fears, kind of connecting to traveling. And it's really pushing you to expand your horizons mindfully, whether that's what you believe in, what you're learning, where you're traveling to. I would say in recent weeks, some of the themes that have been kind of coming up for you guys with Mars in your first house, trying Uranus and Gemini is, I can travel more, I can have more freedom, I can go back to school, I can have fun, I can have long distance romance. And so now maybe you're seeing where maybe some of that was kind of happening because you're spiraling out a little bit and you're feeling restless, right? So now it's kind of reviewing some of the plans maybe that you have made. And if you are traveling, there can be some delays, so just watch for that. Good luck, Libra. And we've got Scorpio and Scorpio risings. Scorpio, you're going to be experiencing the sun going through the sign of Virgo, and it is going to be in a house, the 11th house, which deals with your friends, your networks, and your goals, and social opportunities, networking events, and it is now coming into a square with Uranus in Gemini in your 8th house. So for you guys, obviously the 8th house is much more about intimacy, shared resources, taxes, inheritances, intimacy, transformation. And you're going to see that the tension is going to be between some of your social aspirations, your friends, your networking, your allies, versus, deep financial or emotional shifts. So there could be some big changes happening revolving around your joint financial goals, big changes happening around friendships. And what I think I would watch for is that, group dynamics can be altered by unexpected financial changes, Group dynamics can be affected by endings, beginnings, intimacy issues. And this is likely going to transform alliances for empowerment. I think the other thing I would mention, and I do talk about this in the new moon, but because you are ruled by Pluto, that's your modern day ruler, the fact that this new moon makes a yod, aspect is basically saying, like, on one hand, there can be changes going on where you're kind of like, you're pruning your friendship group, you're kind of pulling certain people out, you're letting them go, especially if you're outgrowing them. But there can also be really important networks, connections, and people that can really help you. Help you with what? Pluto in the fourth house things. You move, you change something about your home. Maybe it makes it possible for you to meet a new community, for you to join new groups, for you guys to make new friends. Maybe it's also about, transforming something about your home base because you want to entertain or you want to bring people in. So I do feel like there can be people who can come in and help you with your home, your family, or your scheduling or your health related matters. It's all about who you know. So be open to kind of changing things up with your social connections, Scorpio. I think that can be very beneficial for you with home, but also with health and work. All right, we have got my Sag and Sag risings. Sag, if you're 0 to 2 degrees, pay attention to this new moon because this is going to be affecting you, okay, the early degree Sages. You will have the sun going through the sign of Virgo in your 10th house of career. This is also connecting to your authority, your reputation, how you're kind of seen out in the world. And this will be squaring Uranus in Gemini in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, and, spouses. It could be about clients. A little bit more tense in the angular houses for the mutable signs. I think that this is going to be showing some kind of friction between, professional stability versus relational surprises. And this could be, your ability to help or serve or manage things for a partner, for a client, where, there's some changes going on at work and it's putting the pressure on, how you communicate in a marriage or a romantic relationship. So there will be tension. Some of you guys can say that there can be sudden partner changes that's affecting your career path. So like changes with clients, changes with business partners. And I think the key here is that you're really trying to negotiate freedom in commitments for growth. And maybe that means that you do need a little bit, more freedom or kind of openness or less commitment in some relationship aspects because you feel like you're really prioritizing and focusing on your career, for example. Or maybe there is a lot of destabilizing things happening for Sagittarius suns or risings, and that's putting you in a position of Uranus and Gemini where suddenly you're listening to astrology reports, suddenly you're working with a job coach, you're working with a therapist, right? And certainly tension in, career stuff can bring relational issues as well. But I think that for many Sag risings, between Mars going through Virgo recently, 2 new moons, 1 solar eclipse, a lot of you guys are still dealing with this process of kind of like getting out of being super focused and consumed with your professional life. You're getting more into what's going on the home front. And you'll see that more as Saturn goes back into Pisces this fall and there's eclipses in your 4th house. So really this is showing you that you can benefit from making some changes or some switch ups with managers, partners, even therapists to kind of help you navigate some of these changes going on with your career identity. So watch for kind of expansion and contraction in these 2 particular areas. Good luck. Capricorn and Capricorn rising, you guys are going to be feeling the effects of the sun going into Virgo in your natal 9th house. This deals obviously with adventure. This is about education, your belief system. It can be also about traveling, legal matters, education. And it's coming into a square with Uranus in Gemini in your natal 6th house. So positive, I would say, for the earth signs is that if you happen to have, Taurus or Capricorn placements, obviously early degrees, it'll be trining. So it can offer you a little bit of stability. Challenge here, I think, is that, with Uranus in your 6th house, it's really creating a lot of changes when it comes to your health, your work. Maybe you're working independently, maybe you're working 2 jobs, maybe there's a lot of instability with work or health. And that's coming into friction with the sun and the moon, obviously the new moon in your 9th. So this is going to be about like philosophical expansion versus routine disruptions, or traveling in education versus, do I have the time? Do I have the capabilities? Is my schedule going to permit me to do these things? This can also be very much kind of connected to legal matters for some people because the 6th and the 9th house can be tied to that. So it can mean that there is some spontaneous changes going on with legal matters or spontaneous changes with work, which is leading to, new training, new education, that kind of stuff. So I would say in terms of what to expect, yeah, some travel or study plans can be kind of upended because of health stuff that comes up or work issues that have glitches. Then I would say really this is about innovating your daily life with Uranus in your 6th house to kind of broaden, what you're learning, your wisdom, even travel opportunities. And it looks like you've been thinking about this recently. Mercury rules these two areas. It's been retrograde. So it's a lot of where's my money going? What am I doing with it? How can I make more of it? How am I investing it? So for a lot of you guys, it's going to be about learning how to do more of that and kind of opening the door for new kind of unexpected job changes. So I hope that that's helpful for you guys. I will also note that the sun is not just only square Uranus, but it is in conjunct or quincunx Saturn, which is your ruler. So there's a lot of okay, I want to travel, I want to get out of the house, I want to learn, but, this is a blind spot. And I would say, watch for maybe a teacher to appear or an opportunity to travel or do some continuing education. Might get you out of the house. It might also build some of your skills, and it'll kind of help you navigate the quincunx to your chart ruler, Saturn. All right, we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. What's up, Aquarius? Sun going through Virgo in the 8th house, obviously, is a bit of a sticky house because it is where the sun does not shine. So this is kind of shining a light on shadow qualities or anything connected to transformation, sometimes fear and phobias, but also rebirth, intimacy, and anything dealing with emotional or psychological healing. So the sun will be squaring Uranus in your 5th house in the sign of Gemini, where this is a house that deals with creativity. It's about romance, it's about children, falling in love versus vulnerability, and really kind of showing up and kind of exposing maybe your soul to another person. So it's about kind of taking a leap of faith when it comes to trust. So I think the theme of the square is about deep transformation versus creative rebellions. I think that I would watch for surprises in love or hobbies, especially shaking, any kind of financial intimacy or security. And this is a time where you might be feeling like you want to embrace unconventional passions for renewal. I think about how, obviously, Uranus is your chart ruler. So like Leo, you're kind of getting rocked by this. And Leo represents partnerships. So as it goes into this 8th house squaring, it means financial partnerships, investments, who's managing your money, who you're banking with, how much money a partner is spending, if you're trying to get loans or if you're trying to deal with debt, how that's impacting how you feel and what you create and how you have fun. And certainly for you and, for Leo, there's going to be a lot of things going on with finances over the next month as we're starting to see eclipses that are coming into your 2nd and 8th house. North Node in your 2nd says you're having to build it on your own. And the eclipses and planets that are going through your 8th talks a lot about kind of clearing out other people. So you may not have some of the support you're used to having. Maybe you're getting a little bit more creative with how you're going to be seeking, investments or how you're going to be saving money. But I do think that this is really pushing you to come up with creative solutions. So, embrace something that can be unusual or unconventional. Watch for opportunities to go deeper into relationships and not just have surface relationships. Really focusing on, intimacy and how you can kind of help be of service to other people. Obviously, the inconjunct and the quincunx also to Pluto on your ascendant and Saturn, your traditional ruler. This is kind of written all over your chart too. That's change is a necessary part of the process. And I'm wondering, what are you changing? Virgo could be your job. It could be your health habits. It could also be connecting to, being too overly critical of the details and the finances and what other people give or what they don't give. And it's teaching you how to really kind of communicate and read the fine print when it comes to any mergers with other people. All right. And we have got Pisces and Pisces rising. What's up, Pisces? You're going to be having the sun going through Virgo in your natal 7th house. This is your opposite sign. So the 7th house deals with relationships, contracts, clients, your marketplace, and it is coming into a square with Uranus and Gemini in your 4th house of home, families, foundation, and your private life. Well, it's safe to say Uranus in your fourth house is a little wild. If you don't have it exactly in your Placidus fourth house yet, just pay attention because usually there's a sense of like restlessness that's kind of going on in the home base. Whether you're traveling a lot, you're going in between two places, maybe there's spontaneous changes with your family, maybe you're thinking about uprooting and going to another country. Uranus there keeps things very lively. So what you're going to find with the sun in and the new moon in your seventh square Uranus is that there's going to be partnership harmony versus domestic upheavals, and whether or not you can work with other people to navigate some of the changes that's happening at home. So there could be sudden home changes impacting relationships that are suddenly taking place, prompting moves, relationships that are ending, that's prompting moves. And this is about really redefining security for balanced connections. Now, this is really big for Pisces and Pisces rising. So if you guys are listening, there will be more of whatever you see from this new moon. Remember that new moons take 6 months to fully materialize. So if you go 6 months into the future, you look at February, March of 2026, when we have a full moon in Virgo, Mercury will be retrograde in your sign. So it's literally going to be like deja vu from what happened this past March, where eclipses were in your sign, and it was really kind of saying, all right, there's changes. Actually, the eclipse was in Aries, The eclipses were in your seventh house, where there was changes going on in relationships, prompting you to have to get more serious about your finances or your own personal security. And Venus went retrograde, Mercury went retrograde in your first house in opposition to this. So a lot of Pisces and Pisces risings have gone through breakups, business breakups, changes with relationships, partners that have kind of left. And as now we get into September next month, you're going to have a lunar eclipse in your sign, trining Jupiter, which is all about your happiness and joy. And you're going to have a solar eclipse in your eighth house opposing Saturn and Neptune. Get used to whatever changes you need to make with relationships right now. And if you're single, to be honest with you, this can be a little bit easier to navigate because it feels like somebody new could come in if you're looking for it, which could radically change your home and your living situation over the next year, as Uranus will leave your fourth house, go back into Taurus, and then come back next year. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but basically there's some relationship changes and needing to kind of either deal with some conflict or airing some issues out with other people. It could be family, it could be roommates. But the change is inevitable with relationships and also with your living situation. So you're really redefining security for balanced connection. And if you're not having balanced connection, or you're not feeling the support that you need from relationships, some of you guys are going to be like, well, it's prompting some kind of change. Gemini is also like neighbors and it deals with siblings. So sometimes it can be about issues with family, not necessarily romantic relationships. So there's a couple different ways to look at it. But I think with this in conjunct Neptune, which is obviously your modern day ruler, it's where there is changes going on with relationships and relationship fallout and like how that makes you feel, like how you feel, if you feel confident, if you feel secure, if you feel like you're getting the recognition that you need, the support that you need. Probably with Saturn and Neptune, it's actually kind of testing things where you're like, actually, like this change in a relationship, I don't feel secure, or I'm having to work harder for something financially. So watch for some of the changes that are going to continue to happen, I think, with relationships and your home stuff. And partners may actually be the ones bringing in some of the changes that are going to be happening at home. So hope that's helpful. Definitely let me know, Pisces. I'd like to hear how this is manifesting for you guys. It might take some time to see this play out over the next month or so, but you'll see it. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching my astro weather this week. I hope it's helpful. Remember that, the stars are here to guide us, but ultimately we steer the ship. So stay kind of open and stay grounded amid some of the surprises that are going to come this week. I think that we really would benefit from manifesting some of those Virgo intentions. So make sure you guys are coming up with solutions, staying, active and organized, focusing on your health, and keeping your eyes wide open for some of these curveballs. So please don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like this video. You should subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. Also leave me comments below. Let me know what your surprise is this week and how you're working around it and learning to kind of roll with the punches. I hope it's a good one for you guys, and I will catch you guys back here next week. So with that being said, enjoy your Sunday. You guys take care. I'll see all of you very soon.